All right, well, let me tell all of you Metal-O-Maniacs out there, man, I'm super fucking happy to be joined by, in my opinion, a fucking legend of the genre, my main man, Billy Milano, from so many projects I can't even keep track. Thank you for joining us today, sir.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. How are you? Good morning.
Very, very, very good. Much better now that I'm talking to you, brother.
Don't fucking blame me.
Hey, well, first off, let me ask you, we have a mutual friend, of course, in Jason French, who recently joined M.O.D. as a guitar player. How's Jason doing these days?
I mean, Jason's good. I mean, it's funny. I kind of like morph and evolve as a band more and more as I get older and older. I have zero tolerance for people, but I have I don't know, kind of an open-minded expectation that someone new is going to bring something good. And Jason is one of those guys. He really wants it. I mean, I gotta be honest with you. It's like the drummer for M.O.D. and Jason, who played together in Protest. Mike and Jason are guys that are inspired to do something, and I think it's going to go beyond me at some point. I mean, I am 55, and I am a grandfather of two, and I'm also dealing with some personal health issues. And my life is unusual for me right now. I feel totally at peace with everything outside of my lawsuit, and yet, I don't really have a desire to go back and reclaim stuff. I can't express that feeling other than like this. I'm really happy with everything I've ever done in music, and I still do music. I still write music, and not just for M.O.D. I mean, I write commercial music. I write radio music, and I'm in the process of doing other things with music, simply because if I'm going to do something expressive, not really as much as a something to dominate or establish a career. I don't really feel personally that I have to achieve anything. But if I'm going to achieve something, I'd rather achieve something something new. Look, I love meat and potatoes. You hear me? But meat and potatoes, if you eat it 7 days a week, is not only not good, it's not healthy. For me, at 55, again, basically what it comes down to this: I have an allocution, or rather an allocating of time. I also have an allocution. But I have an allocation of time that I've put aside for music. What that enables or entails, I don't know. I'm not one of those guys that wants to go out and claim. You see these old hardcore bands getting back together. We're legends. No, you're not. New York hardcore is a legend, not the bands that played in it. And there are bands that are legendary, but not all of them are legendary simply because they played at hardcore in New York. And I can tell you 90 bands that are out there playing right now that are saying they're New York hardcore and they're not. And so I'm not there to claim anything. I don't give a fuck. I do, however, want to create.
Well, I tell you what, you've done your claiming, even if you don't mind my saying. Brother, you've put your flags all over this fucking world, my friend. I mean, that's a beautiful thing that you've done.
Flag is on my always on my M.O.D. tour pass. Look at that.
Fuck yeah, brother.
Oh, give a fuck.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm almost 50 myself, man. I'm a lifelong fan of everything you've been a part of, as I told you a little bit on our chatting back and forth. And, I can't overstate the impact that Speak English or Die. I'm sure you hear this all the time, probably, but the impact that had on my life and I do this show that I do partly because of that album, my friend. That's literally how much of an impact it had on me.
Well, to all your viewers, I'm sorry. This is Scott Ian's fault, I mean, look, let's be honest here. And that's the one thing I think I'm known for.
Oh, yes,
I have always given credit where credit's due. As an adult, I've changed my life into the style and just the attitude that I've become. Like, grandkids beating you up for fucking pancakes every day will make you do that too. I make more fucking pancakes than IHOP. However, and mind you, I love my dogs. My life is very blessed right now, and it's been very blessed since 2000 when I walked away from everything. And so I'm very happy. But again, that record is an exceptional performance on everybody's part. And I always gave Charlie and Scott Ian and Danny Looker credit for it. I just never understood why Scott and Charlie were so douchey to the fans. But that's their thing. And I know you can laugh about it, but I grew up in a New York hardcore scene. And it's egregious in its offense to me. And it really is. Because I stood in the audience and I looked at bands that were up there that included, at CB's, it included bands like, the Discharge and Exploited and fucking Ramones. And I looked at all these bands playing and I said, I want to do that. and I went and did it as best and as honestly as I could. And that's the thing. That's the difference between my generation coming into the thrash metal scene of where I come from, and I brought in the best aspect of it, which was the respect aspect of New York hardcore. And no one could figure out why that made me so much different on stage. And it just made me very different on stage. And again, that whole aspect of that S.O.D. record just coming out and pounding people. And it's funny, because to be honest with you, that record wasn't big, didn't click on for 2 years. Remember, you didn't have anything, social media back then. Your social media was pulling up and seeing your friend's car in front of something. That's how you did it.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, the internet only started in 96, I think.
Oh, it was a different world.
Yeah, listen,
different world.
You sold 100,000 records back then. You think about it. If I had, look here, let's look at this honestly. Excuse me. Gross Misconduct was the biggest M.O.D. record I ever had. And that sold 400,000 copies worldwide. But that was in 1989 for an underground band. Now imagine if there was radio to the point where we were actually tuning into it. Now I will say this in all fairness. MTV did just start taking hold, and there was specialty shows on there, Headbangers Ball. But when I went on Headbangers Ball, I got interviewed by downtown Julie Brown. I didn't get interviewed by Ricky Rackman or later on Jamie Josta. I got interviewed by the hosts of the show because it had just started. It was a fledgling channel, and who the fuck gave a fuck about Julie Brown outside of pussy? I mean, she was a good-looking gal. She was very talented, very nice person. I was very happy to have met her and know her. But in all honesty, she wasn't looked at or regarded in my community at all. She was a woman from England that spoke about dance music, and here she is interviewing people for heavy metal. And the questions were dumb. And the questions were dumb because the show programming hadn't evolved into something yet. But those shows were there and just started. And I imagine in my head, imagine the network possibilities if the internet was responsible and they had firewalls up to stop illegal downloading. You would absolutely have the most powerful industry in America, would be the entertainment industry. But they can bootleg anything. And here's the thing, Chris, if they can bootleg money, then you can bootleg anything. At that point, you need to revise an industry and change the format to something that's it's not about ownership, it's about usership. And that's what they're doing. That's why they're changing all copyright laws worldwide. But, you know, when I started music and I heard that S.O.D. record going into the studio, I was like, what the fuck? Listen to this record. These guys are awesome. And then I sang on it. We did everything in 3 days. But I will say this, a lot of people still cite that record, and it's been a while. You know?
What, 85, right? 85?
Yeah, so it's been, the better part of fucking 35 years.
Yeah. You know, you were talking a little bit about the way certain bands do treat their fans, and I think that's a big thing in the modern era, especially, man. You know, as you know, like Tool has that new release, and Maynard is very known for the way he's shitty to his fans. It is a weird thing to me that that's part of it for some people. Do you agree with that?
What was he shitty to his fans were?
He did that interview where he famously was asked what he thought of the fans who were clamoring for the album and waiting so long for it, and his response was that his fans should get a fucking life and stop worrying about what the fuck he's doing.
In a way, I get where his head is at. You got to remember something, and I say this even about Scott Ian and Charlie Benante. This approach that I have is not for everyone. You have had to grow up in a lifestyle that I grew up with. 11 brothers and sisters. 11 brothers and sisters.
That's crazy.
My whole life. I've always worked. Every fucking relationship I had, even the woman that had my child, I've lost to my career because I just refuse to be ruthless with applying it. Now, I could go out and become M.O.D. I could go out and become S.O.D. I mean, people talk about me and say I say bad things about Scott and Charlie because I have a petty feud with them. And the answer is no. They've been asking me for 20 years for reunions. And the answer is no from now on because they're not good people. And everything they've done in 20 years on their own has nothing to do with me. I stood there and watched you disrespect the fans. I watched Charlie quit. I watched these guys complain. And all I could say to myself for the whole time was, these people waited 18, 20 years, 25 years to come say hi.
Yeah, that's insane.
And you don't want to sign stuff? I didn't sign on for this. I'm a New York hardcore, I won't say legend, founder. I'm one of the founding fathers.
Without a doubt.
And It's the attitude of New York hardcore that drives me. And that's important to understand. Look, I'm so disappointed that Scott Ian and Charlie Benante shit on their fans so fervently and get away with it, and then blame me for all the S.O.D. schism. And yet the S.O.D. schism never existed until they call me up and ask me to do stuff, and I say no. And then they complain about me, and I complain about how they treat their fans, because their fans are online complaining that they get shit on by these guys. And I try to tell everybody, and I told Jason French and Rob Machete, who's back in the band, and Michael Ariano, the drummer, who left M.O.D. after I fired him and came back to M.O.D. under the understanding that business is business, and I expect professionalism, but I expect respect. Everybody's accountable. And it's the same thing. I'm not trying to be anything more than I want to be. And that's it. You're not going to change me. And with the way these guys shit on the fans, it's the oldest rule in the book when you work with me. I don't give a fuck about Scotty, and I don't give a fuck about record labels and booking agents and everyone telling me, well, S.O.D., we're getting offers for S.O.D. $100,000 a show in Europe.
Oh, I believe it.
And they offered us 22 shows. Scotty and then Charlie Benante called us up. I actually didn't call me up. They called my webmaster up, James Howjakowski. We call him the web bastard. He ran BillyMilano.com back in 1999 when we did all the fake terrorists and shit. It was great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember.
I called James up and asked James if I want to tour because they're afraid to talk to me because they know they're going to get a no. And here's the best part. Even though I turned down those shows, I still turned down making $20,000 a show for me. And that's without mirth. And that is because the fans are only going to pay us to be there so that they can look at us. They're not going to meet Scott. They're not going to meet Charlie. And the only people they're going to meet is me and Danny Loker because we're the ones that care about the fans, which is why after every show we do it. But I can't do that anymore. I don't have time in my life to help selfish people make money. And that's the truth. I don't mind making $20,000 a show. Are you fucking kidding me? I need 3, 4 tours, 5 tours with M.O.D. to make 20 grand. But at least with M.O.D. I'm going on a tour and you're on stage with me and you respect me and my rules and you respect the fans because you're on stage with me. And that's my first fucking rule.
Goddamn right.
And that's it. And so Scott and Charlie don't want to reciprocate, and so I'm not going to deal with it. And I turned down doing S.O.D., but I do love everything that we've done.
Oh, it's
S.O.D. I'm doing a 30-year anniversary show with M.O.D. So 30 years of M.O.D., 30 years of S.O.D. I'm doing 8 songs of each on this tour right now.
Fuck yeah, that's awesome. I hope you come to D.C. I'll be there, brother. Get the first beers on me.
I'm playing Kung Fu Necktie in Philly, which is 2 hours from you.
Close enough.
Listen, why don't you come to the show? It's Sunday. It's a Sunday, and it's like the 22nd, I think, of this.
All right, we'll be there. I'd love to see you and Jason, man. Catch up with you guys.
Yeah, without a doubt, I'll let Jason know you're going to come, and we'll put you on the list, and we'll sit down, and maybe we can do some face-to-face interview.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to do that. I'll look for that flyer when we get done talking, as a matter of fact. So that'd be awesome. Okay. Let me ask you a quick question about Charlie and everything. You know, I know you don't want to dive into too much of that,
but any question you want. That's why I'm doing the interview.
Do you separate the asshole from the art? As a question we've talked about on the show a few times. Like, have you checked out the most recent Anthrax albums, or because they're kind of somebody that you don't care for, you don't even check out the art any longer? Let
me be honest with you. The industry has changed so much that I don't stick with the format of following the next record. Now, because of YouTube, right, I listen to a lot of, let me explain to you. This is what I do for a living. Instead of making $20,000 a show from S.O.D., right, and making those guys $20,000 a show, which I definitely don't want to do.
Right on.
I don't mind making the money. I just don't want to make it for them because they don't deserve it. And that's what they get for shitting on the fans. Just ask any fan from the S.O.D. show at Clinton, Iowa at Pigpen. I challenge you to see what they said after the show. Scott Ian refused to sign anything. It's a disgrace, and I was ashamed, and I felt ashamed.
Well, there are Facebook threads actually at this point that tell tales of Scott and Charlie kind of and some of the things they've done that aren't necessarily fan friendly. I'll say that. You know what I mean?
Well, send me one. I'd like to read what a bunch of twats they are.
I definitely will.
Let me get back to my thought.
Yes, sir.
Which was I listen to YouTube. I could do music for a living and do S.O.D. and M.O.D. and these other projects I do. The band Duke I play bass in, and I sing for another band called Billy Be Damned, which is like folk music. Simply put, I don't like them as people, so consequently I won't like their music. And I have liked Anthrax in the past. Look, and here's the thing. I hear these new records are very good, and I listen to them, and I've heard They've Come For You All, which I thought was okay. And the John Bush era stuff sucked. John Bush sucked.
I agree.
And the story, the guy's voice is so flat and lifeless, like the music was for that era. The next thing is this. Anthrax is one of those bands that absolutely stole every idea they could to get to wherever they could. And it's falling short on them now because they can't sell it anymore. And so they're just become a novelty. They might as well start playing casinos. But the fact of the matter is, their new record I hear is very good. If you're an Anthrax fan, my friend is an Anthrax fan, the webmaster, James, that's the guy they asked for me to do an S.O.D. reunion. You believe that they didn't even have the ball to call?
That's crazy.
It shows you what cowards they are.
Right.
They're cowards.
You guys were friends as teenagers, right? Like,
I met those guys at CBGB's. They had long hair, and my friends were going to beat them up because they had long hair, and I defended them without even knowing them. And yet they turned around and they fucking rob everybody. They're scumbags. And so they didn't even have the courage to call me on the phone because they're cowards. But I hear that their band, the new record, is exceptional. I don't put it past people to write exceptional music that, even though I may not like them as people. I'll give you an example. I don't like the band Korn, but I think Korn writes some very good music, and their fans love them. And so how could you not respect that? They're doing what they like to do, and that's what they do.
Right.
But
I'm not a fan of Korn myself, but yeah, I get it. I'd rather somebody listen to Korn than rap.
Yeah, listen, never once heard a fan from Korn or the Deftones say those guys are assholes. Never once.
True.
And yet that's all you hear about Scott and Charlie, because they're bitter. Now, a lot of people say I'm bitter about it, but the fact is this. I'd rather sit outside the front door of my bar working than go on tour with S.O.D. There has to be a point, Chris, when you hit an age, because people always ask me, why don't you just go do S.O.D.? You can make so much money.
Don't make the money. No, happiness.
Including my record label and my booking agent in America, who are my business partners, who have vested interest because they not only book Anthrax and manage Anthrax, they also are the record label for Anthrax. So I'm in that conflict area, and I find myself at times being poked and prodded. But I'm the wrong motherfucker to poke.
Yes, you are, brother.
I don't give a fuck. I already did S.O.D. People say, why don't you do a reunion? We did it. Where were you? We did it in 2000. And you know what the truth was? It wasn't as good as everyone thought it was going to be. And I did not have a good time knowing Scott and Charlie on the road are who they are. Scumbags. End of fucking story. And I'm not going to do it again. And I've tried to put together one-offs here and there. We tried to do 3 times. I tried to do 4 times I tried to do S.O.D. reunions. In 2007, I wanted to do an S.O.D. reunion for my friend's cancer and play a couple of shows in Texas. And they wanted me to do it in New York because it was Anthrax's 30-year anniversary. And all I could say to them was this: what does your fucking anniversary have to do with my friend dying of cancer?
Yeah, right on.
Scumbags, right. And their answer was, we'll get more out of it in New York. And I canceled the show. And then we got offered, they wrote me and asked me, would we want to do an S.O.D. show like 4 years ago. They were like, wouldn't it be fun to do this? This is the record label. And I wrote, fun sounds like fun. I went and got 2 shows for us at the Super Bowl of Hardcore. My friend, Cuz Joe Camato. So Cuzzy Joe in New York Hardcore. He offered us $42,000 for 2 shows. And that's very good money. But it's not. Yeah. And the bottom line is this. But the show itself is what I wanted to do. I didn't give a fuck about the money. And I didn't give a fuck about S.O.D. But I wanted to do S.O.D. for the fans, for New York City. You ready? At Cuzzy Joe's show. Not at Anthrax's 30-year anniversary show. See, Anthrax needs to use me for credibility. See, I shit bigger than Anthrax. They're a bunch of punks. And that's a fact. But the fact is this. They also shit on the fans. And you can't stop the genie. It's out of the bottle. And everybody sees it. And you know how many times I've seen in the 20 years or 30 years that I know these motherfuckers, Billy Milano, oh Billy, oh Billy, oh Billy. Why? Because I'm tough and I fight back. And that's a
And you ain't no bullshit, brother. I'll tell you that.
I don't give a fuck about S.O.D. anymore because they fucked it up. Charlie Benante and Scotty in a scumbag. Done. And everybody talks about it online. But I also see this now. Wait, maybe Billy was right. And when I see maybe Billy was right, that's them saying, you know what? Billy's fucking right.
All right, we figured it out the hard way.
No one's got it. That's right. I tried telling you. I defended those guys without even knowing them. And I defended them from my friends because my friends were wrong. And that's who I am. And that's my legacy. And I'm not going to do anything with Scott and Charlie because they're wrong. And I'll do S.O.D. songs with M.O.D. and I don't need them.
Fuck yeah.
At least
I'm glad you bring.
Are nice. Listen, Jason's a good dude.
I love Jason.
Cool. Rob Machete is a great dude.
Fuck yeah.
Me and Rob Machete in 1994 had a fist fight. I went to hit him with my coffee pot and I put it down because we were punching each other. And I said, I don't want to break my coffee pot. So I grabbed a raid can and hit him with a raid can. And here we are jamming together laughing about it. Because we're real dudes. Scott and Charlie never hung out in a corner in their life. Those niggas never shared a beer with nobody on the street. You hear me? This is real. I can't help it. If you don't like it at 55, fuck off.
Hey, fuck off. That's right.
I'm not I don't want to be anything I'm not. Go ahead.
I know you famously have said on many occasions that when people say the Big Four and their inclusion of Anthrax on there is bullshit, and that your personal opinion is that should be Testament, right? I know
without a doubt, that should be an all West Coast show. Anthrax got on there at a default. That's like saying, you want to fight in 8th grade. You're the best boxing champion in the world.
Right.
You know, what the fuck is that?
Right.
I mean, they never achieved anything until S.O.D. broke. And that's a fact.
That's
no
a
one
fact.
gave a fuck about Anthrax with their spandex and their bullet belts. But then Billy Milano comes into the picture, does Speak English or Die, and their next record, right? They have 4 S.O.D. songs on, 1 M.O.D. song they stole from me, which was Indians, and then they come out wearing shorts.
Right.
Right? Where the fuck did that come from? From me. And from the crumb suckers.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to tell you the truth. I steal from you all the time because I walk around at least once a week, and when I'm feeling stressed, I might yell something like, I'm passing cramps the size of basketballs.
Yeah. I hear you. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I never talk about this shit because I don't do interviews because I don't give a fuck. You know, Jason, I'll do this interview. That's it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Jason told me you'd be fun to talk to, and he wasn't bullshitting.
I don't hold back, but I also, by not holding back, I have nothing to lose by telling the truth. And
well, you know what? You've got a reputation as the realest motherfucker in metal, and you definitely fucking earn that reputation every time I see you, sir.